Those of us who love dogs have been somewhat relieved at the big Supreme Court order that modifies an earlier verdict by the court that had mandated and ordered that all stray dogs should be taken away, sterilized, and forced into shelters that do not even exist. While this order was for Delhi, the national capital, soon there were copycat instructions in other states, leading to a sharp division of opinion in India, and dog lovers were apoplectic. Now, the Supreme Court has said that stray dogs should be vaccinated, sterilized, and released. But, and there is a but, the Supreme Court has said that public feeding of these dogs is not permissible and civic authorities must set up designated feeding centers, leading to serious concerns about how these dogs will be fed in the interim. How much of this is a big win for dog lovers and how many serious concerns are there still? Let me introduce Percival Villamoria on the program now. Percival Villamoria is, of course, a senior advocate, but really I think he would first identify as somebody who loves animals, somebody who loves dogs. It's his big passion. He's been fighting non-stop for the last few days to try and get the Supreme Court to change its mind. And that has happened, but partially today. Percival Villamoria, let's start by explaining to our audience what's different today from the previous order of the Supreme Court.
Right. Thank you, Barkha, for having me. I just want to clarify one thing. There has been some consternation about which I've read in the media, where the other side of the argument, they say, okay, look at these guys, they can afford so many counsels, right? Because we had many well-known counsels like Dr. Singhvi, who's always been appearing for the cause. I just want to clarify everybody on our team is pro bono, each and every counsel. I have not known, I've spoken to everybody. Everybody is pro bono, and they are doing this only out of care and regard for other sentient beings. So having said that, if I may just introduce the problem, we had a huge issue before the Supreme Court previously, about a couple of years ago, which ended in ultimately a final order which said that follow the ABC rules. The ABC stands for Animal Birth Control. Now, when you say Animal Birth Control rules, essentially what you're doing is you are saying sterilize. Now, I need hardly say, I think it's quite a no-brainer. I mean, if I am sterilized, obviously I'm not going to have children. And if a dog is sterilized, the dog is not going to have puppies. The difficulty with sterilization is only that you have to do it in a very regimented manner, which is, and there are many scientific papers. So none of this is just folklore or wishful thinking. There are scientific papers which tell you the best way to undertake sterilization. And the thumb rule is you have to be able to sterilize up to 70% of the population in a particular area over a short period of time. Now, and then you have to repeat it, because you see, the thing is, female dogs multiply quite a lot. And if you do 70% and then just leave it there, then there will be many more puppies born among the 30%. So it has to be done in a particular way. Unfortunately, that has not been the case here, although there are several success stories. These are not just anecdotal, and I'm repeating, there is a science behind this. And there have been several success stories even in our own jurisdiction. And one of the best case studies that I know of is Netherlands. In Netherlands, they had a serious overpopulation problem of dogs. And they implemented the same policy, which is pick up, sterilize, drop back at the same location. And that has worked. And today, Netherlands is probably the first country to be declared to be completely free of street animals, street dogs. So it is absolutely proven by anecdotal evidence, and there's a science backing it up. And the entire problem arises from the fact that our municipalities, which were entrusted with the task, were either negligent or deficient, in doing this. The government has, in fact, set aside lot of funds in the budget.
Hmm.
Somebody has to be accountable and the question is what has happened to these funds. I think I'm sure that the government will have its own mechanism to look into
And,
this.
I, and I'll ask you all those questions, but tell me first about the significance of what has happened in the Supreme Court today. What are the big takeaways?
Right, so there was an order by uh, a bench headed by Justice Padiwala, which in a way I would say did not allow the NGOs to put forward the animal lover side to put forward their part of the story. And
Hmm.
I think he went to the extent of saying that I'll only listen to the government, and I think the learned SG was representing the government. And
Hmm.
there was a amicus curiae. Uh, I will refrain from commenting on the paper that the amicus curiae presented
Hmm.
to the bench. So the reason why this happened is I think that everybody has always so far believed, Barkha, that the dog lover community was a very vocal minority. I
Hmm.
myself believed that yeah, we are very sensitive about these animals, and I'm also concerned that there should not be too much conflict in society. I mean, it's a
Hmm.
no-brainer, right? I mean, there is sterilization is the only way forward, and why should that give rise to so much conflict?
Yeah.
And the belief was that okay, these are just a bunch of cooks. Okay, so
Hmm.
it's a vocal minority.
Hmm.
Actually, now this Justice Pardiwala's order has been an eye opener, and it is heartening to note that in fact we were so far the silent majority, and people from all walks of life have come forward to protest. And I think those protests, were noticed,
Yeah.
and it may well be that because of that of those protests, there has been some kind of a modification, if you like, of the directions in the two-judge bench order by the three-judge bench. So the modification really pertains to, you know, to unfortunately, this order also says that you can pick up dogs and you can continue to build the infrastructure.
But
But
doesn't this order, correct me if I'm wrong, say that the dogs cannot be mandatorily pushed into shelters that actually don't exist?
right, and which is why the order clarifies that the infrastructure currently does not exist. But at the
Right.
same time, the municipality is mandated to create that infrastructure. Now, I don't know whether there is a complete understanding of why these so called shelters or pounds are really bad. And
Hmm.
I would like to just explain this, Barkha, because this is a very misunderstood situation. See, when you bunch dogs in pounds, number one, dogs are very territorial. So you take
Hmm.
a bunch of dogs from all over the city and put them in one location. They are going to have fights, vicious fights. Secondly, the cost of building these facilities, is enormous. And why would you do that? Because pounds are the breeding ground of diseases which could even be zoonotic. See, very often what happens is that when you rescue a puppy,
Hmm.
now the so-called NGOs who have these shelters to look after the shelters are there only for sick and animals who have nowhere else to go, sick and infirm animals, not for healthy dogs.
Hmm.
So they say, okay, don't put the puppy here because the first thing that will happen is he'll get kennel cough. So when you bunch all these dogs in one location, which is a different location from his traditional home, where the pup was born, then what happens is that there will be diseases that will be spread. These are zoonotic diseases, and heavens forbid if this happens. Secondly, there has been a very good example. There was a pound in Jodhpur,
Hmm.
and some of the visuals that you see of the Jodhpur pound today, just those visuals will tell us exactly what is wrong with pounds. You cannot put dogs in pounds for several reasons. One is, if you do that, then it is going to be extremely costly to maintain them, to feed them, to ensure that there is proper medical care. And I'm afraid that the municipalities just simply do not have this budget. Moreover, it is not even necessary. Again, I'm saying that the science is very clear. The sterilization is the way forward. And the crux of the issue is, even if you do set up pounds, you have to do sterilization, because the way that the dogs breed, I mean, in no time, there will be a complete implosion. So if you are going to do sterilization to control the dog population in pounds, I see
Yeah.
no reason why it could not be done when the dogs are on the streets.
So
Now,
are you saying that this Supreme Court order actually provides interim relief to dog lovers, but in the medium to long term, it is still talking about building pounds to take dogs off the streets?
well, I think that is the general sense that one gets when you read the order. And I mean, in one para, it does say that at least for now, so it has stopped the picking of the dogs. And I think that comes as a huge relief
Yeah,
to people who are very exercise. You see, I think, the government has to do a lot of thinking here, because they have seriously underestimated this constituency. And
yeah.
that can't really augur too well for to be right now. Somebody was telling me that the BJP, Barkha, my own political leanings. I've always supported this government because I
Hmm.
think they've made a sea change since 2014. And somebody was just telling me that, look, they talk about what we call as Sanatan Dharam,
Yeah.
right? And if you look at Sanatan Dharam, dogs were, it's just inconsistent with that philosophy. So
Hmm.
there are many ways to look at it. I think the way that I would like to explain is that dogs are very, very precious to the common man. See, the common man, middle class people, they live in small apartments. And it is,
Hmm.
in a way, quite cruel to confine the dog in a tiny apartment, unless, you have
Hmm.
the ability to walk the dog 3-4 times a day, which not too many people have. So for a person like that, when he or she comes home in the evening, the highlight of the day is the time spent with the three streeties who are living on the landing or on the road below the building.
Hmm.
And it is this silent constituency and the silent majority
Yeah.
which came forward and said nothing doing. I mean, the reaction was startling. It took me back. I mean, people were saying, "I will self-immolate myself, but I will not let my child go." And of course, we have people who will never understand that. I don't think
Hmm.
anyone who has ever owned a dog and communicated with a dog at a surreal level can ever appreciate what a dog means to people. And they will never understand that. They'll think that this is a bunch of cooks. But turns
Hmm.
out, hello, that these cooks are now a dominant majority. And of
Yeah.
course, we can't convince the haters otherwise. But I think it's
And
possible.
I think you're saying that even as a supporter of the Modi government, you believe the government has misread the mood among ordinary people, who feel for this as they would for their families, for their children, and that emotion has been misread. Now, I want to ask you something very important that really leapt out at me from today's order about not feeding dogs in public spaces and asking in Delhi, the MCD, elsewhere, it'll have to be other civic authorities to create these feeding centers. Now, in the interim, what happens? Because the court has declared it illegal to feed dogs in public. So, how are these dogs on the street going to be fed now?
So see, this was just an interim order, Barkha, and there will be further hearings, and that will be an opportunity to put forward the case. Now, the issue also is, you must remember that at the end of the day, even the existing ABC rules have a provision for feeding spots. And I think it is only quite natural And as I said, if there are two section of the society, one who like dogs and one who doesn't like dogs. You can't
Hmm.
force them to start liking overnight. So we have to be considerate for the other side as well. And I think this was a very good solution to say that please, every RWA should designate a feeding spot. And most of the RWAs have already done that under the existing ABC rules, where
Yeah.
the feeding spot was designated. So, the others who don't really care for dogs don't really have to go through that spot. I think that's a very good situation, and these feeding spots are already there. This order, of course, requests the municipal corporation to do that, right? And I am, of course, skeptical as to whether they will do anything at all in this.
Hmm.
But if there is an existing spot under the existing rules, and the order also does speak about the ABC rules and recognizes that
Yeah.
there is no reason why that feeding spot that the RW had already agreed upon with the feeders cannot be converted into one designated by the municipality.
But suppose the MCD. So here's what I'm visualizing, that the Supreme Court says you cannot feed dogs in public. This has been a polarizing issue. It has, you say dog lovers are the silent majority, and I tend to agree. But tomorrow in some neighborhood, somebody goes out to an RWA designated spot, feeds the dogs in the colony. Somebody else comes and says this is illegal. A jhagda follows. What happens then?
Yeah, so you're right, Barkha, but this is something which I'm saying we have a opportunity to explain. So, first of all, why is feeding important? Many
Yeah.
people misread this as misplaced compassion. Many
Hmm.
people again misunderstand this to say if you feed dogs, then the dog population will increase because the other dogs will come in. That doesn't happen. The reason it doesn't happen is because dogs are territorial. So again, going back to the same example, if you have three streeties under your building and a dog from the adjacent streets comes there, that
Hmm.
dog will be driven away. So it's not scientific even to say that because we have a feeder, it attracts other dogs. That can't
Hmm.
happen by the very nature of the animal. So it's essentially like, if you like, just a family. And this is the
Hmm.
family, you are the caregiver. And if there is somebody else who wants to, like an overstaying guest who comes, ultimately the family will resist it. So there is a
Hmm.
self-sustaining mechanism, which, uh, and the other reason which is very important, which people miss, feeding is very, very critical to do because, again, sterilization. So you can sterilize only a healthy dog. If you have a dog that is starving, then that dog cannot be sterilized.
Hmm.
So feeding only encourages sterilization.
I think that's a really important point. But let me ask you in the end, you said this is only an interim order. What will those, dog lovers like yourselves now be fighting for, and what concerns you at this point, even after this intervention?
So again, I don't know whether fighting is the right word because see,
Yeah,
although it's not a PIL, I mean, these kind of litigations are not adversarial, should not be adversarial. See, I do believe that there is room for both the sides. There's tremendous misunderstanding between the two sides, and there is room for more harmony and working together. And if the court were to also take that, and I'm sure they will, I'm sure, we're three very eminent justices, and they will certainly recognize that there is a point of view that is here, there is a science that is here, and then there is a law. And the law was crafted because of the science. Now, there may be
yeah,
some people who poo-poo the science, but I mean, if the court is going to be the final arbiter, right, I would
yeah.
like to show them that this is the science, this is the paper, this is the issue, this is why ABC sterilization has not worked so far. And here are the success stories. These are the even anecdotal evidence where in our own jurisdiction in India, where it has been done properly, it has worked.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think all I'll say is that at least there has been a certain de-escalation of tempers, of emotion, of anxieties. It is an interim order. There are still many questions that remain. How will street dogs be fed? Will the resident welfare associations continue to uphold the idea of feeding centers? Will the civic authorities move towards creating these centers? But all that can be said for now is that, at least for now, there will be no forcible herding of these dogs to pounds that simply don't exist. You're raising the larger anxiety about pounds at all being the model to pursue, but I'm sure that will come up in the court in the days to come. Percival Villamoria, thank you so much. I'm sure dog lovers owe you and others. And you've stressed that all of you have been fighting pro bono. This isn't about rich people getting highly paid lawyers. This is really about the love of the animal. Thank you so much, Percy. Take care.
So
See you soon.
just to
Yeah.
clarify, I was not in court when this was heard because unfortunately on that day I was in Madras.
Okay,
So
but I know how much you've been doing to basically canvas support for this. So thank you nevertheless. Thank you. See you soon. Take care. Bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.